Hello, welcome to my Suzuki GSX-R750 L4 rebuild project. Now, for those of you that have been following this series, you'll know that I got this bike about springtime 2024. It's 2025 spring now, a year later, and it was a crash damaged bike. It had been down at Brands Hatch at Druids, left for 4 or 5 years, not even started. All the damage was quite bad down this side here, including the exhaust and all the bodywork and clip-ons and levers and all sorts. And between myself and my friend Bob Stockley, 99% Bob Stockley and 1% me, we rebuilt the bike, making it back to showroom spec, basically, with new panels, new parts and everything in between. And it's kind of, I wanted it bog standard. Now, it had a few little modifications on it already. It had an HM quick shifter, which was really good, and a Brembo master cylinder. And I added a 5mm spacer to the rear shock to jack it up, which mimicked the setup of the bikes I used to ride at the launch in 2011 when the L1, which is the same as this, was launched to the world's press in Monte Blanco. And I also dropped the front sprocket by a tooth, just to give it a little bit more acceleration. And tyre wise, I fitted Pirelli Diablo Super Corsa SPs, which are fast road track day tyres. I rode it a fair bit in 2024, mainly track days. I did a Brands evening track day. I love an evening track day. A Donington evening and a full day at Cadwell with Suzuki Live. Over the winter, my plan was to improve the bike and make it the GSX-R750 I've always wanted, but not before addressing a few little problems that I'd had. It was running really badly at low revs, which we traced to spark plugs, so we fitted new spark plugs and it's absolutely fine now. We managed to burn the clutch out when we were doing some speed testing. So it's got new EBC clutch plates in it, and I finally sorted out my spare key problem, which isn't straightforward. It means buying a new key blank from Suzuki, getting it cut and then getting it coded to the bike. But I've got a spare key now, so I'm happy. The big changes for 2025, well, there are three really. Number one, I wanted to improve the brakes. So I've got EBC discs and pads all round. I wanted to get the fueling sorted, so I've had it mapped at BSD Engineering. And the main thing was to get the suspension bang on without going to the expense of racing suspension. So I've had the standard stuff rebuilt, revalved and blueprinted by MCT Suspension. So I haven't had a chance to try any of these modifications properly yet until today. So what better day to try them, really? It's nice and sunny, the roads are dry, and we're on the Rutland TT, which is the perfect kind of testing ground for this bike. So the Rutland TT, it's not an official route, but it's kind of a route that you can see online that a lot of people enjoy. It's about 90 odd miles long, and it's right on my doorstep, part of it, in Stamford in Lincolnshire. And if you're going anti-clockwise, it goes from Stamford to Corby Glen along the back roads, through a place called Bitchfield, to the outskirts of Grantham, then across to Melton Mowbray to Market Harborough, to Uppingham round to Morcott, Ketton and back to Stamford. So it's all B roads and it's a fantastic route. So I've just stopped outside Buckminster. We're 34 miles in. And the roads between Stamford and here have all been very tight, twisty, undulating, technical and bumpy, which is the perfect place to test suspension. Now the first question to ask is, what was wrong with the suspension in the first place? Well, nothing really. The standard suspension on this is very good. It's good enough for normal road riding. It's relatively plush. You can adjust it enough for it to be firm on the track. So not really a big problem, but as you might have seen in the previous video with MCT, the adjustments were a little bit out. You're at the end of the range and some adjusters, the beginning of others. And it also felt a little bit wooden to me. So MCT, with regard to the forks, they took the forks out, stripped them down, revamped them, changed the oil, put less oil in there, so it was a bigger oil gap, and lighter springs, down from 10 springs to 9.25, so that's quite a jump. And at the back, stripped the shock down, revalved, reshimmed, put new oil in it. The oil that came out was just bubbly as an arrow, and set everything up, did the sags, put a base level damping adjusters in it. I also took the 5mm spacer out as well, because I felt that when I went to the track last year, it did feel too much on its nose, and I'm used to riding race bikes now that are quite low at the back. And the advantage of that on a track is that when you brake hard, you're not too much on its nose. The bike brakes flatter, so it stays in control a little bit better. It rolls into corners nicer and carries more corner speed. I mean, putting it on its nose for the road is still a good idea in some cases. I mean, BMW's S1000RR has a rear ride height adjuster as standard that you can change, and they recommend you jack it up at the rear for the road so it's light steering, and then lower it at the back for the track. So the bike does feel a little bit slower steering now, just at normal road speeds, and the ride quality, it hasn't been turned into an Öhlins overnight, because the standard suspension components are still built down to a price. You know, when you get an Öhlins or a Maxton or a K-Tech or WP, any aftermarket stuff, the actual individual components inside are beautiful, and that's what gives you a nice plush ride. But we got pretty close, to be honest. The bike, the biggest difference is how nice the front end feels now. You know, it moves nicer through its stroke, got a lot more feel going into corners. The ride quality is a little bit plusher. The rear's maybe a little bit stiff still. It's still got a 10 spring on. I'd be tempted to go down a little bit on the spring, but I might just take some compression damping out of it, which would just soften things off a little bit, which would be nice. But overall, it's still a firm bike. It hasn't turned into a Harley, whatever that was, overnight. But it's nice and plush. It rides the bumps beautifully. You can feel the suspension working nicely over the bumps. There's a lot of control and a lot of feel for the tyres. And given that this modification was £475, opposed to race suspension, which is, God, 4 or 5 times that, it's a really, really good mod. The setup that I wanted, I didn't want a race setup. I wanted something that was quite plush for the road, and I think I've got it. Hopefully there's going to be adjustment in there to firm it up for the track, but I like a nice plush bike on the road. It just helps you feel everything. It makes the bike steer nicer. It's just kind of win-win-win, and that's why I didn't really want to throw race suspension at this. You know, I just wanted it nice and easy, and I think that's what I've got. So now I'm going to head towards Melton Mowbray and Market Harborough. This used to be part of the route I used to take every morning on the way to instruct at the Haslam School at Donington. And it's a superb piece of road. Unfortunately, blighted by 50-mile-an-hour average speed cameras, but you can still have a lot of fun on it. And it'll be a nice chance to get to know how my new remap is working out. Right, we are 64.8 miles in. We've just gone from Buckminster through to Melton Mowbray onto nearly Market Harborough. Great roads, but they're all 50 mile an hour. So to be honest, you probably would have had more fun on a 125. But it's given us a chance to assess the fueling on the bike now. So wasn't a lot wrong with the bike as it was. You know, 750s, we've always said, it's a magnificent engine. It's got just the right balance of excitement. I mean, it revs like a 600, it growls like a race bike, but it's got a lot of torque, so you can just, you know, poodle along in 6th gear and it will just pull out of corners. So you don't need to be on top of it to get places like you would do on a 600, but the power is not too brutal, too intimidating. It's just the perfect amount of power. And I suppose the only thing wrong with this was the fueling was a bit snatchy coming off a closed throttle, and when I was doing the track days it never felt as fast as I remembered a 750. So I took it to BSD, as a lot of you would have seen in the video. Really interesting explanation on how the genius Andy that works there mapped my bike. So basically he spent hours on the dyno. First of all, he took all the wadding out of the can. The Yoshi can that I've got is basically a road going can. It's a road legal can. It's got loads and loads of wadding in it. It was quite restrictive. And that took it from 121 bhp to 127. So now it feels as fast as it should. Standard power really for a 750. This hasn't got a full system or any other tuning, but I'm happy with that. I just wanted it standard power. I wasn't chasing after any more power because on the road, you know, just then I was barely going beyond 3,000 or 4,000 RPM in top. And, you know, if you're honest with yourself, when you're riding on the road, you're probably only ever swimming around in the bottom end and the mid-range power. So you want an engine that's really sort of nice and smooth. So Andy spent a lot of time taking out fuel where it wasn't needed. So to get through noise emissions or noise regulations, quite often manufacturers pump fuel into the cylinders to quieten the bike down when you're cracking the throttle. And also Andy put fuel in where there wasn't any. So off throttle, bikes like these are designed not to dribble any fuel into the cylinders to reduce emissions, but that gives it that kind of snatchiness when you get back on the throttle. You go from a dry cylinders to wet, and then that's what gives it that kind of cluck. So Andy put fuel in there, so the net result of it is a bike is so smooth. Just picking up the throttle is just delicious. There's no spikes or jerkiness in the power delivery. It's just so smooth, smoother than any road bike can ever be because of all the emissions rules. I mean, a lot of bikes get close with their ride-by-wire, very clever engineers with mapping and stuff. Ducati get quite close, but unless you've had your bike mapped, it's never going to be ultra smooth and really as the engineers had designed it in the first place. So I think the only road bike I can get close to being as smooth as this is an electric bike, but that's another story altogether. So, you know, the mapping, even though I haven't chased any more power, which I didn't want a full system because that just makes it doesn't run right unless you're absolutely on the pipe. So within the kind of realms of the standard stuff that I've got, it is amazing. 300 odd quid it cost. Well worth it because the bike feels absolutely beautiful, and wow, it's just getting better by the minute. I absolutely love it. So that bit was great around the Rutland TT. That first bit sort of near Corby Glen and Bitchfield I really enjoy, but this next bit coming up, the next 30 odd miles, which goes towards Medbourne and Uppingham, is just one of my all-time favourites. So there were brand new brakes when I left this morning, new discs, new pads. So they should be scrubbed in by now. So for this next leg of the journey, I'm going to test those EBC discs and pads and see if there are any improvement over standard. So we're nearly at Morcott, about 90 miles in. So it's actually longer than I thought, the Rutland TT. I've probably still got another 15-20 miles to go before Stamford. Brakes are well and truly scrubbed in. So GSX-R brakes historically have always been a bit problematic. Even the long-term test bikes, the brand new test bikes I've had in the past have all faded. They've all lacked a little bit of feel and power, which can be remedied when you give them the racy treatment, really. Master cylinders, braided lines, racing discs, racing pads. This has got master cylinder on and lines, so that really helps, gives it a nice solid feel at the lever. The brakes I took off. I had standard discs and SBS pads, which were really good. They were kind of a hybrid track day road, so we're starting at quite a decent level here. They lacked a little bit of feel and they faded a little bit on track, but very, very good. When I changed all the brakes over, I'd only ridden this bike in the winter 2 or 3 times to go to BSD and to go to MCT, but that was enough. Even though I've ACF 50'd this bike and washed it every time I used it, the pads were quite rusty. So the salt on British roads are an absolute killer. But everything was easy to fit. The rear disc took a little bit of elbow grease to get the bolts undone, but they were all good. And I'm impressed with the brakes. They've got great feel. You know, the same goes with the engine. On the road, you want a bike feeling good at normal speeds. You know, it's one thing for things to work at the limit, but you can't have your cake and eat it with bikes. You know, if something works at track speeds, it's not going to be as nice to ride on the road. So the best thing here is that the brakes have got a nice feel to them, and that's the be all and end all. You're braking half the time you're on the bike, really. You're throttling, braking. So if half of that experience isn't very good, you know, you're going to be a little bit disappointed with the bike. But it has got a good feel there, the good bite at the lever. I've actually set the lever on as an 18 or 20 ratio. I've got it on the 18 mil just to give it a little bit more feel. I'd probably put it on the 20 for the track, but it has got a lot of feel. I think ultimately Lots of people having a nice time today. Saturday as well. It's quite quiet for a Saturday. At the, I wouldn't say limit on the road, but when you're braking very hard, you need a lot of brake pressure. And I'd like to try one of the EBC pads, which are slightly more track focused. There's one which is kind of fast road track day, and then there's an actual race pad. So during the course of the year, I'd like to try those other two just to give it a little bit more bite. But as it is, no problem at all. Just need quite a lot of pressure on the lever, but they absolutely do the job. And the back brake, which I love so much, is really nice as well with the EBC pad and disc. That's got a lot of feel. That's really, really nice. So I've probably done the best of the roads. We've got a little bit of a twiddle to go before we get back to Stamford, and then we'll see how many miles it is and give you my gushing verdict when I get there. Now that was a good ride. Total mileage 101.8 miles, so it's a little bit more, a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. Maybe I went the long way in some direction, but I very rarely just go out for a ride for the hell of it anymore. That's one of the disadvantages of riding bikes every day. But I absolutely loved riding around the Rutland TT on this bike today. It's just incredible. It's, you know, it's a fast bike, it's a beautiful handling bike, but it's also a great road bike as well. It's very involving. The suspension improvements, it's got a really nice plush ride now, it doesn't crash over bumps, steers really nicely. It was so worth having MCT do the suspension. I don't think there's much I'd want to change now. I might make the back a little bit softer, and also the tyres I've still got the super coursers on. I don't really think they're coming up to temperature on the road, so that might be causing some of the kind of slow steering. So I think I'm going to go for Diablo Rosso Corsa 4 for my next set of tyres, and they'll be fine on track as well. So the handling and the ride quality is superb. The fueling, it's just so buttery smooth. It's just a joy to ride this bike slowly, and when you give it a little bit of a thwap, the airbox growl, there's no baffle in the exhaust now, but it's still a standard, the rest of the system standard, so it's not too loud, but it's just got that nice little growl to it. It's loads of grunt, loads of power, just can't ask for more from the engine. The brakes, they've got loads of feel, nice to use at low speed, needs quite a lot of lever pressure still. I'd like to try something a little bit racier. But other than that, I mean, what a bike. I mean, it's even comfortable. I mean, 100 odd miles on a sports bike should make an old codger like me with dodgy joints really ache, but it doesn't. I mean, it's quite a neutral riding position. You know, I probably wouldn't want to ride it down to southern Spain like I used to back in the day, but you know, for a ride like that, best part of the day, 100 miles, absolutely fine. Good wind protection, quiet in the wind compared to, say, an adventure bike or a tall rounder. I don't miss having electronics. It's got no traction control, no ABS, but it's all the better for it. It's just light, agile, fun, and beautiful. I love looking at it as well. So yeah, what a bike. It is the 750 of my dreams, that's for sure. Next I'm gonna hopefully book a track day at Spa in the summer, so I'll take the nice twisty road to Spa, do a track day there, may do a couple of evening track days as well, and just maybe just go out for a ride for the hell of it like I used to before MCN, because it's been absolutely amazing. It's been a brilliant day. There's hardly been any traffic on the road, which is unbelievable. But yeah, very happy. Well, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for joining me on this journey of getting my 750 spick and span and absolutely perfect. I've really enjoyed doing it. It's really given me a bit of a zhuzh, made me kind of fall in love with bikes a little bit more again. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for more like this coming very soon.